What's up, guys? I'm DK, and you're watching Pro Wrestling What If, the series where I look at the different what if scenarios as terms of the world that we call professional wrestling. The Rock was one of the biggest superstars of the late 1990s and early 2000s, winning multiple world titles and main eventing multiple pay-per-view events. During this time, The Rock first dipped his toes in the world of Hollywood with one-off roles in That 70s Show, Star Trek Voyager, and even a movie role in the 2001 film The Mummy Returns. Once the Attitude Era was over, The Rock's time in WWE was becoming less and less, with getting the lead role in 2002's The Scorpion King, 2003's The Rundown, 2004's remake film of Walking Tall, and more. At the end of 2004, The Rock's WWE contract was set to expire, but instead of contacting to negotiate a new one, WWE quietly let it expire, which has become one of the most shocking things to have happened. But what if that wasn't the case and they came to terms on a new deal, even if that meant that he could only be able to wrestle once a year, very likely at WrestleMania? So that's going to be the topic of today's video. It's what if The Rock didn't leave WWE in 2004? And if you end up enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share this to all your friends, subscribe, and press the notification bell for when future episodes get released, and leave a comment down below about today's topic or suggesting a future topic for an episode of Pro Wrestling What If. So let's kick off with WrestleMania 21. Multiple reports had stated that The Rock was pitching ideas for matches against Macho Man Randy Savage and even Sting at WrestleMania 21, but both ended up declining the offer. However, one full-time performer that The Rock did pitch to have a match with around this time was Rey Mysterio. It was even mentioned on an episode of Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard that The Rock wanted to wrestle Rey Mysterio at Backlash 2003 instead of Goldberg. I know that there was also rumors of The Rock challenging JBL for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 21, but I think by the time The Rock would have finished filming Doom that was set to release later that year, the match between John Cena and Kurt Angle at No Way Out would have happened, which determined who was challenging JBL for the title at WrestleMania. And I think for the match against Rey Mysterio, it would definitely mean that The Rock would likely have to bring back the Hollywood gimmick and be a heel, because who at this time is going to be booing Rey Mysterio? Plus, WrestleMania 21 was already dubbed as WrestleMania Goes Hollywood, since the event did take place at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California. Maybe the Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero match that happened at WrestleMania 21 in the real timeline actually happens on an episode of SmackDown where it determines who faces The Rock at WrestleMania. This also makes sense due to Eddie Guerrero previously having a match with The Rock on Raw back in 2002 and coming up short in the match, so now Guerrero wants to redeem that loss at the grandest stage of them all. And maybe with Eddie Guerrero losing this match, this can tie into the actual storyline that happened with Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio throughout 2005. We all know that The Rock arguably does the best selling for the Stone Cold Stunner, but imagine his selling if he took Rey Mysterio 619. This match with two different styles would blow the roof off of the place, like we witnessed with Mysterio's match against Kurt Angle at SummerSlam 2002. And just like that match, however, I do see Rey Mysterio taking the loss against Hollywood Rock at WrestleMania 21. Hollywood Rock getting the victory in Hollywood just seems like it makes total sense. And then he leaves right after to begin filming Southland Tales and Gridiron Gang shortly after this event. WrestleMania 22, I think that The Rock would go one-on-one with the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. It was reported that Shawn Michaels was originally scheduled to have an interpromotional match with Eddie Guerrero at WrestleMania 22, with how successful Shawn Michaels' match with Kurt Angle was the year prior at WrestleMania 21. Unfortunately, Eddie Guerrero would pass away in November of 2005, and so the match would be scrapped, and we would end end up seeing Shawn Michaels have a no-holds-barred match with Mr. McMahon at WrestleMania 22 instead. Even though it is well documented that there was heat between The Rock and Shawn Michaels back in the day, I could imagine a world where The Rock would know that this would be a match that the fans would want, and he would put his differences aside for the sake of the fans. If we can't have the dream match of Guerrero and Michaels, we should get another dream match to fill the slot, especially with Rock now being a part of WWE in this specific timeline. Mr. McMahon could select Rock as a handpicked opponent to represent him at WrestleMania 22 to face Shawn Michaels, and during this build I could see the return of the live via satellite videos that The Rock had when building up for Rock vs. Hogan 2 at No Way Out 2003 for this feud with Shawn Michaels. And once again, I do think in this case that The Rock would walk out as the winner of this match, especially if this ends up being a way to continue the McMahon-Michaels rivalry in 2006, leading up to everything that still happened, including the reunion of D-Generation X with Shawn Michaels and Triple H. WrestleMania 23. This is where The Rock's movie schedule started to become even busier than before, since now he begins his stretch of filming movies with Disney, such as The Game Plan and Race to Witch Mountain. Also, from March to June 2007 is when filming for the 2008 film Get Smart starring Steve Carell began, which interferes with when WrestleMania 23 happened, which was in April of 2007. And the only match I could potentially see Rock willing to work through those schedules out for is against The Undertaker while the streak is still intact. Undertaker had won the Royal Rumble match earlier in the year and had chosen to challenge Batista at WrestleMania 23 for the World Heavyweight Championship. This would mean that a match between The Rock and Batista, which has also been documented as a dream one-on-one match, would have to take place at No Way Out 2007, where The Rock would become the brand new World Heavyweight Champion to set up The Rock versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 23. And you're probably wondering what would happen with Batista if he then does not get that match against The Undertaker, and I think that Batista would end up taking the place of Bobby Lashley in his spot for the Battle of the Billionaires match representing Donald Trump against Umaga, who represented Mr. McMahon. And I guess this means that we wouldn't get this match like in the real timeline when it came to WrestleMania 24. And yes, unfortunately we do miss out on what ended up being a great match between Batista and Undertaker, but we would get a match in return that we already know would end up turning out great, with of course the same result of The Undertaker extending the streak and becoming the brand new World Heavyweight Champion. WrestleMania 24. The Rock makes his return on an episode of Raw on the road to WrestleMania 24, about to cut a promo starting off with "Finally!" and all of a sudden, John Cena makes his return to WWE from injury earlier than expected to lay out a challenge against The Rock for WrestleMania 24. During his speech at the 2008 WWE Hall of Fame ceremony when inducting his father and grandfather, The Rock had mentioned 3 matches he would have liked to have had at some point. That being with Rey Mysterio, Shawn Michaels, and John Cena, all in which I had incorporated in this video. In the real timeline, John Cena would make a shocking return at entry number 30 in the Royal Rumble match and would win it, last eliminating Triple H. Triple H was originally scheduled to win the Royal Rumble match and set up a one-on-one match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania 24, something they originally wanted to do at WrestleMania 21 until realizing how popular Batista was becoming, and then something they ended up actually being able to pull off a year later at WrestleMania 25. But what if John Cena still recovered earlier than expected from his injury, but instead of returning to the Rumble and get a title opportunity at WrestleMania, he's returning during the road to WrestleMania, setting up a battle of different eras between himself and The Rock at WrestleMania, way earlier than when it happened 4 years later for WrestleMania 28. Think of the way this segment would have been done, almost identical to what we've seen between The Undertaker and Triple H leading into WrestleMania 27. in that case, Triple H would still be able to win the Royal Rumble and have that one-on-one match with Randy Orton, which would cause for what ended up being the underwhelming match between the two at WrestleMania 25 to not happen at all, and clearly changing the world title scenes the year after. And the match between John Cena and The Rock, just like their two matches in the real timeline at 28 and 29, would very likely be the main event of WrestleMania 24 with the star power involved. And it is very likely that John Cena would end up winning the match as a passing of the torch from one era to another, like Hulk Hogan did with The Rock at WrestleMania 18 years earlier. And this, in my opinion, would be The Rock's last WrestleMania appearance, or at least the last one for a while because of his Hollywood schedule.